Last week's snapshot was one of the biggest in Minecraft history. The world height was increased, the world depth was increased, and caves were transformed forever. However, in this one, it's changing all over again. And we can expect that from snapshot to snapshot. There are going to be tons of tweaks and changes to the way that things generate underground as Mojang listen to the community and get feedback. But in this snapshot, you can see not only are there changes, there are new blocks as well. So welcome back to another Minecraft update video. It is Snapshot 21w07a, and if my audio sounds slightly echoey, I'm currently redoing my recording studio, so it is what it is. Let's talk about this new block that's been added. We've seen it generating in the bottom of the world. It is known as Grimstone, and it can be turned into some of these variants over here. We have polished Grimstone, Grimstone bricks, and something a little new over here, Grimstone tiles, and finally chiseled Grimstone. Now the first four of those can then be crafted into slabs, stairs, and walls. And when it comes to crafting, I'm not sure if all of the recipes has been added yet. If we search for Grim inside of here, you can see that polished Grimstone has a recipe. So does chiseled as well, but the tiles and the bricks don't appear in here, even though you can see that you can craft the slabs and the stairs, for example. And it's kind of the same dealio here inside of the stone cutter. You can make the bricks, for example, but the regular Grimstone, it only converts into chiseled Grimstone. So it's my guess that we'll probably see those recipes added in a future snapshot. And as far as I can tell, these are your regular building blocks with no special properties. They can be moved by pistons, and the regular texture actually has a bit of a bug when you move it. You can see the texture kind of jitters for a moment. And this reminds me that there's no rotation with any of these textures. You can't rotate them to a different axis, which I'm not sure is a good or a bad thing. I kind of feel like with the polished ones and tiles, if I were building, I'd want to be able to rotate this. And I was kind of expecting some cool new sounds when you walk on them, because this game has a lot of great sound design going on, but nothing so far. They can also be waterlogged, as you might suspect, but other than that, there's not too much else to say about it. Actually, that's not true. There are a couple more things to mention. First of all, when it comes to crafting, this is interchangeable with the other types of stone, like cobble and blackstone. And so for crafting basic tools and furnaces and brewing stands, you can use this new material. And when it comes to mining, it's ever so slightly harder to mine than regular stone. So it takes a little bit longer. As you can see, though, those variants are actually easier to mine. And this means if you had efficiency 5 and a haste beacon, you would be able to instant mine a couple types of these. So Grimstone is the new block that generates in place of stone at the bottom of the world. You first see it at y equals -1, and then for about 8 blocks down it becomes more and more common, creating a bit of a gradual transition with stone. And also with this change, you're going to find that diorite, granite, and dirt no longer generate down at this level. Interestingly, the one other texture that does is andesite, and of those materials, andesite is probably the most popular one for building, so it makes sense that you'd be able to find this one proportionately more than the other stone variants. And in the patch notes, it does say that they've tweaked the size and positioning of diorite, andesite, and granite generation, and from my experience, they seem to be larger blobs, more spherical in shape, that now generate in the typical sorts of places. Maybe even a little bit more common as well, but the general thing seems to be that they are bigger patches. And yes, you might have noticed it, so I'll say it, the ore textures are different, and we will get to that very soon. First of all, I just want to mention that everything will look a little different from how it was last time, because there are changes to the way these new cave types generate. The huge caves are going to be rarer, they're not as frequent as they were last time, and there's less chance of them being filled up with water. And in my experience, having flown around in spectator mode, trying to get a feel for how these caves now generate, the more traditional Minecraft style caves seem to generate closer to the surface, and then as you head further down, that's where you find the big underwater lakes and giant caves, which I think makes a lot of sense. As you go further down in the world, the challenge changes, the terrain becomes different, and so far, it's all looking pretty good. Now before we continue, I quickly want to say that according to YouTube, a lot of you watching aren't subscribed, and if you're enjoying these snapshot videos and you want to stay up to date, you know what I'm going to tell you to do, right? Hit that subscribe button. And also, take in the view. I've just lit this up with some torches, and I got to say, the Grimstone It's pretty grim. Yeah, that was too easy. And a quick note before we do continue, when you see it like this, the Grimstone actually fits in pretty well. It's dark and gloomy down here. Exploring this in survival, placing your torches, will feel a little more menacing. Now once you're using night vision, that effect immediately goes away and the texture doesn't look quite as natural. I got to say, this almost looks like some sort of pathed cobblestone more than it does look like a natural rocky texture, but of course everything is up for change and maybe we'll see this texture change too. So how about those ore texture changes? On the left we have the ores that have remained unchanged, and on the right we have the new ones for coal, redstone, iron and gold. They are no longer uniform with the classic diamond texture. This one's been chosen as the one to be preserved because diamonds are kind of classic, right? And so the idea here is that the game can be more accessible if you're able to distinguish the ores not just on color alone, which I think is a smart move, and I like now how each and every one of these are unique from one another. Now I'm sure some of you would have noticed that these ores don't fit in with Grimstone very well, and Henrik has tweeted out a confirmation that Mojang are actually working on this. Jasper is coming up with textures for the blocks that will appear at the bottom of the world with the Grimstone. This probably means that for some of the ore blocks there's going to be two types of them. So not only are the textures changing, but the way the ore generates in the world is changing too. And I found this cave down here at the very bottom of the world, and I realised if you chug a night vision potion in survival, you'll probably spot quite a few diamonds nice and easy, as they generate more commonly the further you go down in the world. But for this, we actually have some visualization from Mojang themselves. So let's go and check out how ores are now going to generate in this snapshot. Now as you can see here, it says not final, so things are subject to change. And we need to understand what exactly it is we're looking at here. So as it says here, the height of these blocks of color show us where in the world we're going to find that particular ore, and the width is how common it is. So the narrower it is, like diamonds, the less common it is to find at these levels. And you can see over here we have emerald, gold, copper, iron, redstone, diamond and lapis. And for some reason coal wasn't included on the list, but this is how things used to generate in 1.16. And so this tells us how ores are going to generate in this snapshot. And something really important to pay attention to is how iron, emerald and coal generate this high up in the world. This is Y256, and remember this is the Caves and Cliffs update. I think this might just be a sneak preview as what's to come. Cliffs might go as high as this because ores can generate, and this used to be the old world limit, so it kind of makes sense if you go to the top of a mountain that you'd be able to build on top of it. So this might just be a confirmation that mountains are going to get really big in 1.17. Now if we focus on what's going on down the bottom here, gold can generate from 96 to 0, and iron will be from 80 to -16, and in the middle of that range is where they will be most common. So at 32 for iron, at 48 for gold. And I probably corrected myself with an annotation there, that is actually copper. Gold is over on this side, and it can generate all the way down to the bottom of the world, but is most common at -16. Now lapis actually has two charts here. It's got from 32 to -32, and then it's got this one here which is buried, and I believe that means that there'll be some lapis generating that you won't see on the surface like of a cave. I'm just reading into that a little bit though. Anyway, if we focus on diamond and redstone, you can see it's business as usual from 16 to 0, but then the lower down into the world you go, they become more and more common. So if you go branch mining down at the very bottom of the world, you are far more likely to find diamonds. And that's based on the assumption that this width is comparable to that width over there, right? It might not be, but anyway, none of this is final. Mojang will be taking feedback from the community and changing things from snapshot to snapshot. And so Mojang added a note saying they wanted to add more strategy to mining. So if you think about how there are optimal levels for different materials, then you go to a different height to obtain those, rather than just sort of mining at one level to get everything. However, the drawback to that is that then you have to split your time going to different locations in the world, but it seems like the ores generate more abundantly at those different levels, so it might end up balancing itself out. Anyway, what do you think of these changes? Leave a comment down below. Also, I'm calling it now, we're going to get cliffs that go as high as Y256. What do you think? Do you agree? Am I right? I think Mojang might have given it away with that chart they shared with us. There are a few more changes to talk about this snapshot, and this is a great example. This stronghold here is now surrounded by stone blocks, so notice how the caves around it actually get cut off. And if you've played this game a lot like I have, often you can find strongholds with like a ravine running through the middle of it, which I actually think was kind of a good thing, but maybe it kind of broke the strongholds in some regard. But anyway, the change now is that they will be surrounded by solid blocks. And a change to mine shafts. If you watched the last video, you'll be aware of the log support beams. There are now going to be chains that actually hang from the ceiling to hold these up. I think that is a really nice detail that fits in ever so easily. And inside of the creative menu, the redstone tab has been reordered. Mojang described this as having the essentials first, then the unique activators, miscellaneous, common activators, and openables at the very end. There is also a patch note that says that blackstone, polished blackstone, and cracked polished blackstone bricks have had a minor texture touch up. I'm not sure I can really spot anything here. I think if anything, the textures are slightly softer than before. When it comes to bugs, there were just 3 worth mentioning. The beacon beam will now extend up beyond 256 blocks from its source. So up here at the top of the world, you'll be able to see your beacon beam and beyond. Also, with your game rule for players' sleeping percentage set to 0, just right-clicking on a bed would skip the night. You now see that you do actually have to sleep in the bed to pass the night. It's also been noted as a bug that vines stop generating with jungles on the side of leaf blocks up the top here. I'm not sure if reintroducing that is the best of ideas. Also, I couldn't help but notice over here there's now like vines generating on the sides of the blocks. They'll just simply spread and grow over time, so although it looks cool now, they'll end up looking a bit odd at some point. And this third bug was related to how vines generate in jungle biomes. I don't know if this right here is different, but apparently they didn't generate on the edge of blocks when I went into the Hermitcraft world and found that they were generating on the edge of blocks, so I'm not really sure what that was about. But anyway, that's it from me at this snapshot video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, make sure to be subscribed, and I'll see you soon with another one. So, take care, bye bye.